The most dangerous moment in any relationship with a narcissist isn't when they're manipulating you. It's when they realize you figured them out. That's the moment the game changes. That's the moment the person you thought you knew, even the difficult, manipulative version of them, disappears. And what's left standing in their place is something far colder, far more calculating, and far more dangerous. I remember a moment in my own life years ago with an individual I had known for a long time, a person who was charming, successful, the life of every party. But behind the scenes, there was always this undercurrent of control, of subtle digs, of making you feel just a little bit off balance. For years, I played the game. I'd rationalize, I'd make excuses. Until one day I didn't. We were in a conversation and he was spinning one of his usual tales, rewriting a piece of shared history to make himself the hero. And instead of just nodding along like I always did, I calmly and quietly presented 3 facts that completely contradicted his story. I didn't raise my voice. I wasn't accusatory. I just stated the truth. And let me tell you, the change was instantaneous. It was chilling. The warm, charismatic smile didn't just fade. It was like a mask was ripped off. The light in his eyes went out, and what was left was flat, cold, and predatory. It was the look of a hunter who just realized the prey it was toying with suddenly has teeth. That right there is the, oh shit, moment for a narcissist. It's the moment they know the wool they've been pulling over your eyes has been yanked away and you can see them for exactly what they are. In that split second, their entire strategy has to change. Their primary weapon, your ignorance of their true nature, has just been neutralized, and they know it. You can see the calculations firing off behind their eyes. The charm is gone, replaced by a cold, hard assessment. They're no longer looking at you as a source of admiration or an audience for their performance. They are now studying you as an enemy. This is where you see the first immediate behavioral shift. That person who could charm a room, who could make you feel like the most important person in the world, becomes ice cold. It's not just anger, it's a complete withdrawal of the persona they created for you. The warmth you thought was real, you now realize was just a tool, and since it's no longer effective, it's been put away. The second thing that happens is they start studying you in a completely different way. Every word you say, every facial expression, every text message is now being analyzed. They are trying to figure out how much you know. Who have you told? What's your plan? They are gathering intelligence for a new kind of war. They are no longer trying to win your affection. They are trying to map out your weaknesses for the battle to come. And that leads to the third and most critical change. Their manipulation tactics become more sophisticated. The old tricks, the casual gaslighting, the little white lies, the subtle put-downs, they know those won't work on you anymore. You're wise to the game, so they have to up the ante. The gaslighting becomes more extreme, designed not just to make you doubt a single event, but to make you doubt your entire sanity. The smear campaigns become more vicious. The attempts to isolate you from your support system become more aggressive. They have moved from casual manipulation to all-out psychological warfare. Now, I want you to think about this, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Have you ever seen that moment? That instant when the mask slipped? When you looked into their eyes and knew without a doubt that they knew you knew? I want you to think about that moment. And if you're willing, tell me in the comments. Because sharing this is how we take the power back. It's how we know we're not alone in this fight. In my 45 years of practice, I can tell you that 90% of people miss this critical turning point. They see the change, they feel the chill, but they don't understand its significance. They think it's just a bad mood or that they pushed too hard. And that's why they end up trapped for years longer than necessary, because they don't realize the rules of engagement have fundamentally and permanently changed. They're still playing checkers while the narcissist has just switched to a brutal game of chess. You have to understand, when a narcissist is exposed, they are facing what they fear most, the complete and total loss of control. Their carefully constructed false self is threatened, and to them, That is a threat to their very survival. They will do anything to regain control and neutralize that threat. And right now, that threat is you. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 stages a narcissist goes through when they know you've figured them out. And trust me, you need to know this. Understanding this playbook is not just about being prepared, it's about survival. It's about getting yourself out of the line of fire before you become another casualty. So stick with me. We're going to break this down piece by painful piece so you can build a plan to protect yourself and reclaim your life. All right, let's get straight to it. We talked about that chilling moment when the mask drops. Now we have to talk about what happens in the seconds, hours, and days that follow. Now, the first thing that happens when a narcissist realizes you're onto them is they panic. And let me tell you why this panic is so dangerous for you. It's not the kind of panic you and I feel where we get scared and retreat. Their panic is the trigger for a war. To understand what's coming, you have to understand the internal earthquake that's just happened inside their head. A narcissist's entire sense of self, their very identity, is built on a fragile, hollow foundation. It's a carefully constructed house of cards, a false self that they spend every waking moment protecting. This false self is perfect, all-knowing, entitled, and, most importantly, in complete control. Your realization that it's all a lie is not just a criticism, it's a wrecking ball swinging straight at that house of cards. The moment you see through them, you have triggered their deepest, most primal fear, narcissistic injury. This isn't just getting their feelings hurt. This is an existential threat. They feel a terror so profound that it's almost impossible for a person with a healthy sense of self to comprehend. It's the terror of being seen as flawed, ordinary, or, worst of all, a fraud. And that terror immediately curdles into a white-hot rage. This brings us to the rage eruption. And I need you to listen to me very carefully here. Narcissistic rage is not like normal anger. Normal anger is an emotion, often a reaction to a perceived injustice. Narcissistic rage is a weapon. It is a terrifying, volcanic explosion of fury that is completely disproportionate to the situation. You might have just asked a simple question or stated a quiet fact, and what you get back is a screaming, red-faced tirade that seems to come out of nowhere. They will throw things, punch walls, say the most vicious, soul-destroying things you have ever heard. The purpose of this rage is twofold. First, it's to punish you. It's to inflict so much emotional pain that you will immediately regret ever questioning them. Second, it's to shock and awe you back into submission. The sheer force of the explosion is designed to be so overwhelming that you'll retreat, apologize, and do anything to make it stop, effectively putting them back in control. But here's the most dangerous part of narcissistic rage. Behind the chaotic out of control display, there is a cold, calculating mind at work. They are watching your reaction to every single word. They are calibrating their attack based on what hurts you most. They will bring up your deepest insecurities, your past traumas, your biggest failures. Anything you have ever shared with them in a moment of vulnerability is now ammunition. It looks like a wild, emotional fire, but it's a controlled burn designed to destroy you and you alone. I've seen this firsthand more times than I can count. I used to run court-ordered group therapy sessions for domestic abusers. These were men who had been convicted of putting their hands on their wives, their girlfriends, their children. And when you'd confront them with the hard evidence, the police reports, the photos, the medical records, you'd expect to see some flicker of shame, remorse, something. But you don't. What you see is the how dare you mentality in its purest form. I'd sit across from a guy who put his wife in the hospital and his reaction wasn't, "I can't believe I did that." It was, "You should have heard what she said to me first." It was pure, undiluted outrage. The genuine shock that someone, the police, a judge, a therapist, would dare to hold him accountable. They see themselves as the true victims. They were provoked. They were pushed. They were disrespected. Their sense of entitlement is so absolute that they genuinely believe they have the right to punish anyone who fails to reflect their grandiose self-image back at them. And by figuring them out, you have committed the ultimate act of disrespect. This is when they roll out their escalation tactics. The rage is just the opening salvo. When that initial explosion doesn't immediately bring you to heel, they move to more sustained forms of aggression. Intimidation becomes a daily event. They might stand over you, block doorways, or drive recklessly with you in the car. They want you to feel physically unsafe, to keep you in a constant state of low-grade fear. Then come the threats, both subtle and overt. It might start with things like, "You have no idea who you're messing with," or "You'll regret this." Then it can escalate to more direct threats against your reputation, your livelihood, or even your safety. If you try to leave, "I'll make sure you never see the kids again," or "I could destroy your career with one phone call." They want you to understand that there will be a very high price to pay for your newfound awareness. And this is where the character assassination attempts begin in earnest. They will start laying the groundwork for a smear campaign. They'll tell you that you're the crazy one, that you're abusive, that you're the one with the problem. They are beta testing the narrative they plan to sell to the world later. I worked with a client, we'll call her Sarah, a sharp, successful woman who had been married to a prominent businessman for over a decade. For years, she suspected his charming public persona was a front for a cold, controlling man at home. The mask-off moment came when she discovered concrete proof of his financial infidelity, hiding assets, draining their joint accounts. When she calmly confronted him with the bank statements, he didn't deny it. He exploded. For an hour, he screamed at her, calling her ungrateful, stupid, and paranoid. He told her she was lucky he had put up with her for so long. When she didn't back down, the covert tactics began. He started accidentally leaving his email open to articles about borderline personality disorder. He'd tell her she was imagining things when she questioned strange charges on their credit cards. He told their friends he was worried about her mental stability. He was moving from the hot rage of being caught to the cold, calculated war of discrediting his primary witness, her. He was entering damage control mode, and the first order of business was to make sure no one would believe a word she said. So, here are the warning signs that you are in the panic and rage phase. If you see these behaviors, you need to understand that you are no longer in a relationship, you are in a war zone. One sudden, disproportionate explosions of anger over minor issues, 2 cruel personal attacks that target your deepest insecurities. 3 physical intimidation blocking your path, punching walls, driving dangerously. 4 veiled or direct threats to your finances, reputation, or safety, accusations that you're the abusive or unstable one. If this is where you are right now, you need to stop seeing this as a relationship problem you can fix. You are dealing with someone whose primary goal is to silence and neutralize you. Your safety, mental, emotional, and sometimes even physical, has to be your only priority. In the next, we're going to talk about what they do when the rage doesn't work. They launch into what I call gaslighting on steroids, and you need to be ready for it. All right, after the initial rage, they move into what I call gaslighting on steroids, and this is where they become truly dangerous to your mental health. The hot war of rage is over, and the cold war of psychological destruction has begun. Their new strategy is simple. If they can't control you with fear, they will control you by destroying your reality. This is weaponized confusion. It is a systematic, deliberate campaign to make you doubt your own perceptions, your memory, and your sanity. They are going to create a fog so thick that you won't be able to tell which way is up. The goal is to make you believe that you are the problem, that you are the one who is broken, and that your perception of their behavior is completely wrong. This is where they start playing what I call the reversal game. It's a sick, twisted game where they take your reality and flip it 180 degrees. So every accusation you level at them, they will polish it up and hand it right back to you. You've heard these lines before. That never happened. They will deny with a straight face that they ever said or did something you both know is true. They will be so convincing, so unwavering, that you'll start to think, maybe I did dream it. Maybe I'm misremembering. You're being too sensitive. This one is a classic. They'll say something incredibly cruel, and then when you react, they'll act bewildered. They'll frame your legitimate emotional response as an overreaction, a flaw in your character. It wasn't their comment that was out of line, it was your sensitivity. And the big one, you're the one who's crazy. This is the knockout punch of the gaslighter. They will push you and push you, poke you and provoke you until you finally break down in tears or yell back in frustration. And in that moment, when you are at your most vulnerable, they will calmly look at you and say, "See, look at you. You're hysterical. You need help." They create the chaos and then blame you for it. I saw this with a father figure in my own life. This was a man who was a master of rewriting history in real time. You could have a conversation with him on Monday where he agreed to something, and by Wednesday, he would not only deny the conversation ever took place, but he would express deep disappointment in you for making things up. When I was younger, it drove me crazy. I'd argue, I'd try to remind him of the details, where we were, what he said, but it was like arguing with a brick wall. He had this unshakable conviction. It was only years later that I realized it wasn't a memory problem, it was a manipulation tactic. By constantly forcing me to question my own memory, he kept me off balance and second-guessing myself, which kept him in a position of power. This is where you see their advanced manipulation techniques come into play. They will claim to have selective memory, suddenly unable to recall any of their bad behavior, but possessing a photographic memory of every mistake you've ever made. They will use your own words against you, twisting something you said in confidence into a weapon to hurt you. This leads to the documentation trap. When you're at your wit's end, you might say, "I have proof! I have the text messages!" And the narcissist might even say, "Show me! Show me the proof!" This is a trap. They know that most emotional abuse, the subtle digs, the constant undermining, doesn't leave a paper trail. They are calling your bluff, knowing that you can't prove. A pattern of psychological torment in the same way you can prove a financial transaction. They use your lack of a smoking gun as evidence that the abuse never happened at all, further making you feel like you're the one who's crazy. All of this is part of a larger campaign of psychological warfare. They may start creating chaos in your life to keep you overwhelmed and exhausted. They might start arguments late at night knowing it will lead to sleep deprivation, which makes it harder for you to think clearly and stand up for yourself. They will work overtime to isolate you from your support systems, telling you that your friends and family are against them or bad influence. They want to cut you off from anyone who might validate your reality and tell you that you're not, in fact, going crazy. I worked with a client, a man named David, who was brought to the brink of a complete mental breakdown by this phase. His wife, after he discovered her affair, didn't just rage. She began a gaslighting campaign that was so intense, so all-encompassing, that David started to believe he was losing his mind. She would deny conversations they'd had hours before. She would move his keys in his wallet and then tell him his memory was failing. She told their friends he was becoming erratic and paranoid because of stress at work. He started recording their conversations just to prove to himself that he wasn't imagining things. He was a successful architect, a man who designed skyscrapers, and this woman had him convinced that he couldn't trust his own mind. He was losing weight, he couldn't sleep, and he was having panic attacks. That is the devastating power of nuclear-level gaslighting. It's not just lying, it's a deliberate attempt to dismantle someone's psyche brick by brick. If you are in this stage, you are in extreme danger. Your mental and emotional health is under a sustained and vicious assault. Protecting your reality has to become your number one mission. This is why, in the next, I'm going to give you 5 specific strategies to protect your reality during this phase. You need a plan, you need tools, and you needed to start fighting back for your own sanity. Because if you fall for this phase, if you start to believe their twisted version of reality, you are on a fast track to losing yourself completely. Now here's where it gets really twisted. After they've tried to break you down with rage and then scramble your brain with gaslighting, they do something that feels like whiplash. they switch to trying to win you back. And let me tell you, this is often the most confusing and dangerous phase for anyone trying to escape. Just when you've finally accepted that you're dealing with a monster, just when you've started to build up your walls and steel your resolve, they pull a complete 180-degree turn. The monster vanishes, and in its place stands the person you first fell in love with. The charming, attentive, funny, wonderful person you thought you'd lost forever is suddenly back. The apologies start flowing. The gifts might appear. They'll look at you with those same eyes that once held nothing but cold fury, and now they're filled with tears of remorse. They'll tell you everything you've ever wanted to hear. You were right. I was wrong. I can't live without you. I'll change. And God, does it feel good? Why does this charm offensive work so well, even on the smartest, strongest people? There are 3 powerful reasons. First, you're in a state of trauma. The constant cycle of abuse followed by brief moments of peace creates something called a trauma bond. It's a powerful, addictive emotional attachment to the very person who is hurting you. Your body and brain are so starved for kindness that when they finally offer a crumb of it, the sense of relief is overwhelming. Second, the simple relief of not being attacked is intoxicating. You've been living in a war zone, constantly on high alert, waiting for the next explosion. When the bombing stops, the silence feels like heaven. You're so exhausted from fighting that you'll cling to any sign of a ceasefire. And third, it preys on your deepest hope, the hope that maybe they're finally changing. You want to believe the person you love is still in there somewhere. You want to believe this time is different. This charm offensive is designed to feed that hope until it completely eclipses your rational mind. But you have to understand, this isn't the same love bombing you experienced at the beginning of the relationship. This is love bombing 2.0. It's an upgraded, more sophisticated version. The first time they were working with a blank slate. This time they have years of data on you. They know your deepest insecurities, your secret dreams, your biggest fears. Their new charm offensive is targeted with laser precision at your specific vulnerabilities. If you've been feeling lonely, they'll suddenly clear their schedule to spend every waking moment with you. If you've been worried about money, they'll come up with a grand financial plan for your future. It is a custom-built campaign designed to create maximum emotional confusion and short-circuit your logic. I had a client, let's call her Jennifer, who went back to her narcissistic husband 7 times. Each time, she would leave after a horrific episode of verbal and emotional abuse. And each time, after a week or 2 of him raging and then giving her the silent treatment, the charm offensive would begin. He would send flowers to her office. He would write long soul-bearing emails admitting to all his faults. He would book a surprise vacation to the place she'd always wanted to go. He would promise therapy. He would promise to change. And Jennifer, an intelligent woman with a master's degree and a successful career, would go back. Why? Because, as she told me, when he was good, he was the best I'd ever known. And I just kept hoping that version of him would finally stick. Of course, within a few weeks of her return, the mask would slip, and the abuse cycle would start all over again, each time a little worse than the last. You have to learn to dissect the apology that isn't an apology. A real apology has 3 parts: acknowledging what they did wrong, showing genuine remorse for how it affected you, and demonstrating a change in behavior. A narcissist's apology is a strategic maneuver. It will be filled with phrases like, "I'm sorry if you felt hurt," or "I'm sorry, but you were pushing me." See the difference? They're not taking responsibility for their actions. They're making it about your reaction or your behavior. It's a non-apology designed to get a result: your forgiveness. This is also when they engage in what I call future faking on steroids. They will paint a beautiful, elaborate picture of the future you've always wanted. They'll talk about buying that house in the country, having another child, starting that business together. They will make grand promises about change, the most common one. I'll go to therapy. They might even go for 1 or 2 sessions, just enough to prove they're trying. But they will almost always sabotage it. either by lying to the therapist, charming them, or quitting as soon as you let your guard down. They make these grand gestures, the surprise trip, the expensive gift, to overwhelm your logic with emotion. It's hard to focus on their past abuse when you're staring at plane tickets to Paris. I've seen this pattern so many times, and I want you to understand, this isn't love, it's strategic manipulation. They are not trying to win back your heart. They are trying to win back their source of supply. They are trying to get you back under their control. There's also a real addiction factor at play here. That cycle of high highs and low lows creates a chemical addiction in your brain. The stress of the abuse floods your system with cortisol. The relief and euphoria of the charm offensive release a powerful cocktail of dopamine and oxytocin. You become addicted to the makeup phase. Your brain literally craves the high that comes after the low, and the narcissist is your dealer. And that leads me to this final critical warning. If you fall for this phase, you are setting yourself up for an even more devastating cycle. Every time you go back, you are teaching them two things: that their abuse has no permanent consequences, and that all they have to do to get you back is turn on the charm for a little while. The abuse will get worse. Their respect for you will diminish even further. You are not resetting the relationship, you are just starting the cycle over at a lower, more dangerous level. When the charm offensive fails, they don't give up, they just go underground. And that's when they become truly dangerous. So you resisted the rage. You held on to your sanity through the gaslighting, and you saw the charm offensive for the manipulative trap that it was. You are still standing. You should be proud of that. But I need you to listen to me because the war is not over. When the charm offensive fails, they don't give up. They just go underground. And this is where they become truly dangerous in a way that can ruin your life without you ever seeing the punch coming. Welcome to the covert warfare phase. This is the point where the narcissist, realizing they can no longer control you directly, decides to control the world around you. They are going to play shadow games, operating behind the scenes to systematically dismantle your life, your reputation, and your support system, all while maintaining a public image of being the victim or the concerned innocent party. The primary weapon in this phase is the smear campaign. And let me be clear, this is not just petty gossip. This is a calculated, systematic, and ruthless campaign to destroy your reputation. They will go to your friends, your family, your coworkers, your neighbors, anyone who will listen, and they will start planting seeds of doubt about you. They become master storytellers, weaving elaborate tales of your instability, your cruelty, your supposed abuse of them, and they are incredibly convincing. They don't do this with rage. They do it with a performance of deep sorrow and concern. This is the concerned friend approach. They'll pull a mutual friend aside and say, with a sad shake of their head, "I'm so worried about her. She's just not herself lately. She's become so angry and paranoid. I don't know what to do." They position themselves as the long-suffering partner who is just trying to hold things together while you fall apart. They weaponize people's empathy against you. They turn your own support system into their unwitting army. While they're poisoning your social circles, they often move on to professional sabotage. They know how important your career and financial stability are to your independence, so that's what they target next. This can be as subtle as accidentally letting a piece of negative information slip to your boss, or as overt as making false reports to your professional licensing board. They might run up debt in your name or hide assets to create financial chaos. They will use the legal system as a tool of harassment, filing frivolous motions and dragging out proceedings to drain you of your time, money, and emotional energy. I had a client, a man we'll call Mark, whose ex-wife was a master of this covert warfare. Mark was a chef who had poured his life savings into opening his own restaurant. When he finally found the strength to leave his emotionally abusive wife, she didn't rage or plead. She smiled. And then she went to work. She started by creating a fake social media profile under a different name and began leaving scathing one-star reviews of his restaurant, claiming she got food poisoning. She contacted his suppliers and told them he was having financial trouble and was a bad credit risk. She called his business partner and, under the guise of concern, told him that Mark had developed a drinking problem and was becoming unstable. The most vicious part. She went to their son's school and told the administration she had concerns about Mark's aggressive behavior at home, triggering a painful and baseless Child Protective Services investigation. Mark was being attacked on all fronts, but every time he tried to trace the problem, it led to a dead end or well-meaning person who had been manipulated by his ex-wife. His business suffered, his friendships became strained, and he was fighting to protect his relationship with his son. He told me, "It feels like I'm being attacked by a ghost. I know she's behind it all, but I can't prove a damn thing." That is the goal of covert warfare, to destroy you while leaving no fingerprints. This is what I call the proxy war. The narcissist rarely fights their own battles in this phase. They get other people to do their dirty work for them. They turn your friends against you. They use your family to deliver guilt-tripping messages, and in the most heartbreaking cases, they use your own children as weapons. This is where triangulation becomes their most powerful tool. They will put the children squarely in the middle of the conflict. They will tell a child, "Mommy is sad because Daddy left us," or "Daddy doesn't have time for you because he's too busy with his new life." They create a narrative where they are the good, abandoned parent and you're the selfish, destructive one. They force the child to choose a side, creating a loyalty conflict that can cause deep and lasting psychological damage. And in today's world, they have a whole new arsenal of technology. They will weaponize technology to stalk and harass you. They'll monitor your social media, looking for any scrap of information they can twist and use against you. They might hack into your emails or put tracking software on your phone. They will engage in digital harassment, sending you a barrage of texts and emails 1 minute, then going silent the next, all to keep you on edge and feeling like you have no privacy and no escape. You have to understand, for the narcissist, this is the long game. This isn't about a single argument or a single victory. This is about revenge. They are patient. They will plan for months, even years, to get back at you for the ultimate crime of figuring them out and refusing to be controlled. Their need for vindication is bottomless. This is why I always tell people, and you need to hear this, when you're dealing with a narcissist, you are not dealing with someone who thinks like you do. You operate on principles of fairness, empathy, and resolution. They operate on principles of power, control, and winning at all costs. You are playing a game with a set of rules they have no intention of following. You cannot project your own morality or sense of reason onto them. It will only lead to more pain and confusion. So how do you detect when you're under this kind of covert attack? You have to learn to look for the patterns. Are mutual friends suddenly distant or acting strange? Are you hearing odd rumors about yourself? Are you facing unexpected problems at work or with your finances that seem to come out of nowhere? Do you feel a constant sense of being watched or monitored? You have to trust your gut. If it feels like a coordinated attack, it probably is. You're not being paranoid, you're being targeted. Eventually, when they've thrown everything they have at you, the rage, the gaslighting, the charm, the covert warfare, and you still refuse to break, they realize they've lost, they can't control you anymore. At this point, they move to the final and in many ways most brutally painful phase. This is the stage where they try to make you feel like you never mattered at all. This is the discard. And the first thing you need to understand is the sheer coldness of it. A narcissist can switch off their emotions, or at least the performance of them, like a light switch. One day they might be desperately trying to win you back, and the next they look at you with the flat, empty eyes of a stranger. There is no gentle letting you down, no sad goodbyes, no closure. There is just a void. It is a complete and total emotional cutoff that is shocking and disorienting. You're left wondering how someone who claimed to love you so deeply just days before can now act as if you are nothing. That's when the second blow lands, the replacement supply. Almost immediately, sometimes even before they've officially discarded you, they will have a new person lined up. And they will not be discreet about it. They will parade this new person all over social media, take them to your old favorite restaurants, and introduce them to your mutual friends. This is not accidental. This is a deliberate act of cruelty designed for one person. The psychological impact is devastating. It's meant to send a clear message. You see, you were nothing. You were completely replaceable. The problem wasn't me, it was you. And I found someone better instantly. It makes you question everything about your relationship and your own self-worth. You're left feeling like a broken appliance that's been thrown in the trash and immediately replaced with a new, shiny model. This all feeds into the "you're dead to me" treatment. The narcissist will now proceed to act as if your entire relationship, your entire shared history, never even happened. They will erase you from their life with a surgical precision that is terrifying. They won't acknowledge your birthday. They will ignore messages from your family. If you run into them in public, they might look right through you as if you're a ghost. They are invalidating your entire existence in their life. I worked with a client, a woman named Karen, who was married for 20 years. 20 years. She raised 2 children with this man, built a home, and shared 2 decades of memories. When she finally stood up to his financial control and emotional abuse, he discarded her. Within a week, a new woman had moved into their family home. He changed his number and blocked her on all social media. When their daughter graduated from college, he attended with his new partner and sat on the opposite side of the auditorium, never once making eye contact with Karen. It was, she said, like being a widow to a man who was still alive. He had erased 20 years of marriage as if it were a file on a computer. That is the discard, but here's the twist. Just when you start to accept that they're gone, just when you begin the painful process of healing, your phone might buzz. It's them. This is what we call a Hoover attempt, named after the vacuum cleaner because they are trying to suck you back in. They might send a casual text, "Hey, heard our song on the radio and thought of you." Or a dramatic one, "I'm in a crisis and you're the only one who can help." In my therapy sessions, I've seen it all. The timing of these Hoover attempts is not random. They often happen when the narcissist's new supply is starting to see through their facade, or when they're simply bored and need a quick hit of attention. Or they might happen on your birthday or an anniversary, a time when they know you'll be at your most vulnerable. Do not mistake this for love or remorse. A Hoover is not about you. It's about them. It's a test to see if they still have control, to see if the door is still open for them to get a little more supply. And dealing with all this, the discard, the replacement, the hoovering, triggers what I call the trauma bond withdrawal. And let me be clear, this is a real physical and psychological withdrawal. You will feel it in your body. You might have panic attacks, insomnia, nausea, an inability to eat. Your brain, which became addicted to the cycle of abuse and reward, is now screaming for its fix. It feels like you're withdrawing from a powerful drug because you are. Emotionally, it's even worse. You are grieving the loss of someone who never really existed. You are mourning the future you were promised and the person you thought they were. It is a confusing, disorienting grief because you are also simultaneously realizing the depth of their betrayal. And while you're in the depths of this pain, the smear campaign that started in the last phase goes into overdrive. The discard is the final piece of evidence. They need to prove their story to the world. They will now say to everyone, "See, I tried to make it work, but she was just too unstable. I had no choice but to leave for my own well-being." They use their own brutal discard of you as justification for their narrative that you were the problem all along. You're probably asking yourself, how can they move on so fast? Is it even human? The answer is that they can do it because they lack genuine attachment and object constancy. They never saw you as a whole, separate person with your own thoughts and feelings. They saw you as an extension of themselves, a mirror that reflected back what they wanted to see. When you stopped reflecting that perfect image, you became useless to them. They don't mourn the loss of you because in their mind there was no you to begin with. There was only your function, and they are desperate to find a new mirror, a new source of supply, because they cannot tolerate being alone with their own emptiness. Now, this all sounds bleak, I know, but I want you to hear this last part, and I want you to hold on to it. As painful as it is, the discard phase can actually be a gift. It is the moment the abuse stops. It is the moment they finally, unequivocally, show you who they truly are. It is the end of the confusion. It is the end of you hoping they will change. The discard, in all its brutality, is the beginning of your freedom. It is the painful, jarring, but necessary first step to getting your life back. All right, we've been through the fire. We've dissected the rage, the gaslighting, the twisted charm offensive, the covert warfare, and the brutal final discard. You've seen the playbook. Now that you know what you're up against, let me give you a battle plan that will not only protect you, but help you reclaim your life. This isn't about theory anymore. This is about action. First things first, we need a fundamental reality check. You need to accept down in your bones that you are dealing with someone who does not think, feel, or operate like you do. You cannot apply your logic, your empathy, or your sense of fairness to their behavior. They are playing a different game with a different set of rules, where the only goal is to win. Trying to get them to see your point of view is like trying to teach a shark to be a vegetarian. It's a waste of your time, and it will get you eaten. You cannot fix them. You cannot change them. You cannot rescue them. Your mission is not to reform them. Your mission is to protect yourself. Period. Once you accept that, your first practical step is to become a meticulous record keeper. I'm talking about a documentation strategy. Get a notebook, open a firewalled computer document, or use a password-protected app. Write down every incident of abuse, manipulation, or harassment. Note the date, the time, what was said, what was done, who was there. If they send you abusive texts or emails, do not delete them. Screenshot them and back them up somewhere safe. This is not about obsessing over the past. This is about creating an evidence trail. When you're deep in the fog of gaslighting, this journal will be your anchor to reality. And if things escalate to involve lawyers or the courts, this documentation will be your single most powerful asset. Next, you need to learn the gray rock method. Your emotional reactions are the narcissist food. They feed on your anger, your tears, your frustration. The gray rock method is about starving them. You need to become as boring, unresponsive, and uninteresting as a plain gray rock. When they try to provoke you, you give short, factual, and emotional answers. Yes. No. I see. I will have to get back to you on that. You don't explain, you don't defend, you don't engage in the drama. You make interacting with you as unsatisfying as talking to a rock. A common mistake people make is announcing they're going to be a gray rock. Don't do that. It's a covert strategy, not a declaration of war. You just do it. This makes them lose interest and go looking for a more exciting source of supply elsewhere. While you're becoming a gray rock, you need to be building your support network. But you have to be strategic. The narcissist has likely been running a smear campaign, so some of your mutual friends may have been turned into their flying monkeys. You need to identify your true allies. These are the people who listen without judgment, who believe you, and who have consistently had your back. Avoid anyone who says, but there are two sides to every story, or maybe you should just try to get along. They don't get it, and they are not safe. For your core group, you may need to educate them. Explain the dynamics of narcissism. Send them an article or a video. Help them understand the playbook so they can support you effectively. And do not be afraid to seek professional help. A therapist who specializes in narcissistic abuse can be an invaluable guide through this process. Now, I know this can feel overwhelming, so let me tell you about a client of mine, Sarah, whose story we touched on earlier. When she came to me, her husband's covert warfare had her on the verge of a breakdown. He was sabotaging her professionally and turning their friends against her. The first thing we did was implement this battle plan. She started a secret journal. She began practicing the gray rock method in their interactions. She identified 2 trusted friends and her sister as her core support team and explained exactly what was happening. She created a safety plan, opening a new bank account in her own name and changing all her passwords. It was a slow, difficult process. But 6 months later, she was a different woman. She had the evidence to counter his lies in their divorce proceedings. She had a support system that believed her, and she had regained her sense of reality. She told me, "For the first time in years, I feel like I'm standing on solid ground. It is possible." That brings us to safety planning. This is non-negotiable. On the physical front, if you feel you are in any danger, you need a plan to leave safely. Know where you will go and what you will take. Financially, you need to protect yourself. As Sarah did, open a separate bank account. Run a credit check to see if they've taken out debt in your name. Secure your important documents. And digitally lock down your life. Change every single one of your passwords, email, social media, banking. Assume they will try to access everything. Turn on two-factor authentication wherever you can. Ultimately, the goal for most situations is the no-contact rule. This is the single most effective way to heal. It means blocking them on your phone, on social media, on email, everywhere. It means no communication, period. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if we have kids? What if we work together? In those cases, you go for low contact. You communicate only when absolutely necessary, only about logistics, and you do it in writing so there's a record. You keep it brief, informative, and boring, pure gray rock. Finally, you have to focus on your own healing and recovery. You need to understand the trauma bond that keeps you emotionally tied to them. You have to start the work of rebuilding your identity, rediscovering who you are outside of their shadow. You have to learn to trust yourself again, your gut, your perceptions, your decisions. The narcissist spent years teaching you to doubt yourself. Your recovery is about unlearning that lesson. This entire experience, as horrific as it is, can make you stronger. You will learn to spot red flags from a mile away. You will develop boundaries of steel. You will never again settle for a relationship that makes you feel small or crazy. So let me leave you with this. Remember, you can't change them, but you can absolutely protect yourself. You deserve better than a life of walking on eggshells. You deserve peace, respect, and happiness. And it is never, ever too late to start over. Now, I want you to take one action today to protect yourself. Change one password. Write down one incident. Reach out to one trusted friend. Take one small step. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and remember, you are not alone in this fight.